Alright, I know a lot of you guys have asked about a comparison between the 16 Pro Max and the brand new iPhone 17 Pro Max. So I want to do this in our typical way. We're going to talk about some of the specs, but more so just show you some of the physical differences and talk about those changes. So jumping right into it, if you have an older device before a 17 Pro Max, like a 16, there are a number of differences in addition to the new design language here that Apple has implemented for their latest and greatest flagship phone. First things first, what you'll notice physically is that yes, the 17 Pro Max, for a good reason, is a little thicker than the 16 Pro Max and also obviously a little heavier. This comes in at about 233 grams, and the 16 Pro Max comes in at 227 grams. It is definitely slightly taller, wider, and thicker as well as heaviness, and now you're going to get that dual tone display on the back, kind of, or look I should say, on the back, with the lighter covering around where the MagSafe chargers is, since obviously aluminum doesn't conduct as well as titanium did. But also, really quick, I have to say, this phone, you quickly are reminded how much better it is as far as thermal conductivity goes, because right when I picked this up and started using it again, it was getting so much warmer to the touch. I forgot really how bad it was. You do also get the ceramic shield 2 on the front and back of this device, whereas you only have ceramic shield on the front and back of this one, the original. You do have obviously much more saturated colors with the 17 Pro Max. Unlike the hero color from last year, that desert titanium. I'm a huge fan. I know a lot of people can kind of take or leave these saturated blues and oranges this year, but I definitely do like it. You have the exact same screen as far as a 6.9-inch OLED with a 1 to 120 hertz ProMotion display on both of these devices. Whereas on the new 17 Pro Max, you are going to get the extra 1000 nits of peak brightness, which is pretty insane. So you're at 3000 nits peak on the iPhone 17 Pro Max, as opposed to 2000 on the regular. Now, Apple kind of preached on this and touched on it a little bit, but there is a new anti-reflective coating on the actual 17 Pro Max, but when you angle them at the light, it's doing its job. It's diffusing the light just a little bit, but it is still just not as good as what you get on the Galaxy S25 Ultra. So just keep that in mind. Not quite to that level yet. Hopefully Apple improves on this next year. As far as performance goes too, you do get the A19 Pro chipset, both still based on a 3 nanometer chip as opposed to the A18. You do have that new vapor chamber cooling on the 17 Pro Max, which is definitely nice to see. It does perform better, and like I just said earlier, it does keep the phone running ever so slightly cooler. You're getting 50% more RAM in the new 17 Pro Max. You're at 12 gigs as opposed to 8. And now you can get a maxed out storage of 2 terabytes. I don't know who really needs that. If you do, comment down below and let me know. But if that's something you're into, with the Pro Max on the 17th gen, you can now get that size, whereas opposed to it topping out as 1 terabyte prior on the 16. And then let's talk about these cameras, because Apple made a big point to talk about these as well, obviously, as you'd expect. But now you are getting a main camera that is 48 megapixels with an f1.8 aperture, another 48 megapixel at an f2.2 ultra wide, a 48 megapixel 4x telephoto with a larger sensor, and then you are going to have those same main cameras on the actual older 16 Pro Max, but the telephoto is actually only a 12 megapixel 5x. So technically, you are getting a smaller telephoto from the 16 Pro Max, from a 4x to a 5x, but this does still have a larger sensor and a larger megapixel count. And then obviously the big change on the front being that new center stage FaceTime camera with a square sensor that is really probably one of the best camera updates and upgrades here that I can talk to you about. You can see everything horizontal and landscape while holding your phone in a portrait orientation. And then comes the battery topic. You do now have a larger 5088 milliamp hour battery as opposed to the 4685 on the 16 Pro Max. You get up to 39 hours of video playback, allegedly, with the 17. And then you obviously were down to only 33 on the actual 16 Pro Max. Finally, we have a little bit faster wire charging at 40 watts. That'll give you 50% in 20 minutes, whereas opposed to 27 watts wired, where you'd get 50% in 35 minutes. Same 25 watts MagSafe wireless charging, and really the same starting price, with the caveat that you were getting 128 gigs of storage initially on the 16 Pro Max. Now you are up to 256 base storage for that same $1,200 price point. Technically, it is a price increase, but when you take the storage into consideration, it does become a wash. And Bluetooth 6.0 is actually here now on the 17 Pro Max, whereas you were on 5.3 on the actual 16 Pro Max. So again, I don't mind, it's going to come down to personal preference, but I don't mind this larger camera plateau, as they're calling it. It houses a lot of the functionality of the phone, similar to the Air, which is why you have such a larger battery here. And only again, on the certain versions without eSIM, are you going to get these extra sizes to consider for battery life. You do have that slight more thickness, like I said, but again, if you put them side by side, and let me actually turn them around, if you're actually just going to look at them just like that, I don't want to say it's neglectable, but it is so slim that even older cases for your 16 Pro Max will work on the 17 Pro Max as well. So, same camera controls, same action buttons, more brightness on the screens. You can see exactly where Apple has put their resources and wanted to push these changes. The A19 Pro chip does work a lot better. You have a much better higher end Geekbench score here. Not a surprise necessarily, but just wanted to let you know that. So, enough rambling. Again, gonna come down to a personal preference on what you really like and need. As a power user, I am very appreciative of what Apple did here. But again, even if that's not something you want to consider, don't forget they got rid of their Plus model and did bring this thinner baby here, the iPhone Air, into play if that's something you might take advantage of as well. So let me know in the comments down below, what do you think? Is it worth $1,200 for this iPhone 17 Pro Max? Or do you want to wait till next year and hope the rumors are true with a smaller dynamic island and possibly even the iPhone Fold? First generation coming out for Apple playing catch up. I still think, and if you saw our other videos, this shouldn't be new. This is a precursor to what you can expect for that device. I think it's basically going to be two of these side by side, shrunken a little for almost like a 5.5 inch display instead of a 6.5, but we'll have to wait and see what happens and what Apple really does with that. So yeah, again, let me know what you guys think. I'm on the fence. I definitely appreciate this from a heat dissipation standpoint and much more comfortable to hold, but let me know your thoughts. Peace.